absolutely was the first image we had. This idea of filmmakers using the tools of movies to, you know, thwart the bad guys. The ultimate arm is like one of those amazing things that we just thought it'd be cool to have an action sequence with the arm.
As they're coming up the ramp here, the helicopter's gonna be hovering around the jump area. That's kind of leading into the transition, getting Colt onto the helicopter.
You know, you're not busy, maybe we could go to a beach somewhere. Make some bad decisions.
Okay, sure, yes.
In every incarnation of Fall Guy script, this is one of the action sequences that remain.
Okay, swing him around, go!
The term Fall Guy originally means, in the stunt world, is the guy that takes the hits. It's the guy that steps in and takes the fall, the guy that falls off the horse, the guy that falls off the bike, the guy that falls down the stairs. And so it was a term that coined early on in film as the stunt person, the Fall Guy. But I think we took it to another level in the Fall Guy, the film, where it became more of a metaphor, or maybe that's a bad term, but we use the term in a lot of different ways. This is a Fall Guy, stuntman, who is also taking the fall for something he didn't do, and someone who's fallen in love so deeply that he's willing to risk everything to get it back. Fall Guy has a lot of meanings in our Fall Guy, and it just took it to the next level.
Ball coming on this one, and 3.
The film was about making movies, but it's really about just real people. It's not about superheroes, it's about the people who play them. It's about the people who make those films. Colt is a blue-collar hero who's just, in a lot of ways, you know, a regular guy who, you know, having a hard time in his life. He's lost his girlfriend and his job, and he's lost confidence. He's just trying to make ends meet and figure out how to be a good person and who he is, and just dealing with things that we all deal with. And Jody's the same, and really all the characters in the film. They're just very hardworking people who are doing their best and feel lucky to do something that they love.
So Tom Ryder, I guess, is a character that is sort of a combination, a concoction, or a cocktail, if you will, of just so many different characters I've, you know, either heard about or met in the past, or, you know, everyone has their story of a nightmarish actor, or a moment with an actor, or something crazy in the tabloids of an actor doing something absolutely heinous. Ultimately, at his core, he's someone who is, you know, believes in his own hype, but is also like, he is very much in denial of his own behavior. You know, he's always someone who's gonna hand it off to someone else, well, blame someone else. Well, that's because of, you know, that's because they did this and that, that was nothing to do with me. Like, he's a selfish sort of narcissist.
I mean, she's really warm and inviting, but she's eccentric, and she's as messy as the rest of us, and real and grounded. And she's basically directing her directorial debut, which is this ridiculous, extravagant sci-fi western called Metal Storm. And she's kind of in way over her head. She has huge talent, but she's under an exorbitant amount of pressure to deliver on this movie, and sort of hanging on by a thread. So the last thing she needs is this ex-boyfriend showing up to unravel everything that she's built and turn her whole world upside down. But ultimately, their feelings for each other and the chemistry that they have are gonna override any desire to try and keep things profesh.
I play Dan Tucker, who is the stunt coordinator in a movie that they're making called Metal Storm. And he's a very close friend of Colt, played by Ryan Gosling, and he's, you know, also a very close friend of the director, played by Emily Blunt. So he's often caught being a little bit of the matchmaker, the guy that's kind of sewing together the broken bits of Colt, trying to get him back to where he was before this cataclysmic injury that took him out. So he's constantly working on Colt. He's always trying to keep everything going, which this movie and the set is quite chaotic. You know, you really need to pull all the pieces together. So he ends up becoming a lot of the heart and soul of the film that we can trust. So when everything gets really crazy, we come back to the relationship with Dan to bring it back down and make it real again.
Alma is my love letter to every PA I've ever worked with, every assistant I've ever witnessed. I feel like I've gained even more inspiration. Nobody knows this, but I've been spying on all the assistants and PAs on this set, and we have this new bit for Alma where she's always carrying like 10 million things, and it's simply just because I look around me and I'm seeing everyone sweating, running in their cargo shorts. Alma's a little bit more, you know, fashion, cinema, but I'm seeing everybody work so hard and deal with all sorts of shenanigans and have to put up with the craziest scenarios. So yes, Alma is my love letter to assistants and PAs specifically worldwide.
Action!
Oh my God! Troy Brown.
Just being on this movie, like I grew up watching the series, and Colt Seavers was a household name. Like I would go jump off of something, and my dad would be, "Who are you? You think you're Sonny Hooper or Colt Seavers, or what are you doing?" And it was wild getting the opportunity to actually be Colt Seavers for this, and you know, there were so many personal levels to this job and to the fall and just to this whole thing. It's a one-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and that's me. How crazy is that? Yeah, it's wild.
It's amazing to have a director that also did it. I was in a situation where I was getting hit by a car for the first time, and I asked the director for a little bit of advice, and I've never had that before, which is quite cool. Hey David, how do you get hit by a car? And then he's like, oh, just do this and this and this, and it's quite a unique experience.
Yeah, it helps tremendously to have your director also be a former stuntman, so whenever you're doing a stunt, he understands what is going on, what the adrenaline feels like, you know, what kind of dangers there are and everything that it takes to get it done. So you get a little bit of help from them, and they get it, you know. And then they also can capture it the best way possible because they used to do what we do.
So the cannon roll is a classic stunt that's been around since obviously the beginning of cars and films. And really what happens is the special effects department works with stunts, and they actually put a cannon in the bottom of the car. Now it's usually the use of hydraulics and air pressure. It used to be black powder and a log. And you place it in a position of the car, and as the car's going at speed and you hit the charge, it flips the car and the car rolls. It was important for us to do some sort of, again, we were trying to do classic stunts, and so the car roll became one of the things that we had to include in this film. And while we were at it, we're like, well, we're making a movie that's an homage to stunt performers. Why don't we make sure that we're doing the best and biggest versions of those, and maybe we can break some records. And so that was the goal when we set out, like, how do we make a statement on practical stunts and maybe set some records. And with the cannon roll, that's what we did.
I was happy to be the first actor to say I did none of my own stunts in this film. It is about the stunt performers, and I was excited to highlight their work and let them do what they do best. But it was important that I do some of the stunts, just first of all, for me to understand what, on some small level, what they deal with every day, but also just for authenticity in the film. So I have a fear of heights, and I knew this was coming because it is called The Fall Guy, and we knew that there was going to be a fall. But the whole opening sequence all takes place in a oneer, and it leads up to them dropping me 12 stories off of a building. So that was one that there was no real way around. Another one that we did was I got dragged across the Sydney Harbor Bridge, which again was important to sort of have me do it because this character is risking his life and everything he has to sort of get to this karaoke date with Jody. And it was just important that I be there doing it. And it was really geniusly scheduled because they did it at 6 a.m. So I was so tired when we did it that I sort of showed up. They dragged me across the bridge. I went home and went to sleep and thought that was a very strange dream I just had.
I mean, what I love about Dave Leitch's movies is they have a completely unique tone, and that tone captures everything from the absurd to the grounded. They are stunningly stylistic to look at. He knows exactly how to move that camera around in order to capture something emotional and something rare. They're kinetic and sort of visceral, and he's just the best guy in the world. He's just takes all of it in the most humble, human way, and he's completely open-minded, I think, to actors bringing their thoughts. He's an amazing collaborator, probably the most collaborative person I've ever worked with. The best idea wins, and I think it's what gives his movies this grounded reality amidst something so spectacular. I think he's really unusual. I think he's captured this vibe and this look and this spirit that's very unique to him.
David's just such an exciting person to be around and an incredible partner, and even from the very beginning, I mean, he went and stayed in a hotel next to my house before we started shooting, and we just went through the script scene by scene every day and just rewrote it to be personal to us so that it would be an amalgamation of our experiences. He's so hands-on, he's so not afraid of anything, and I think, you know, it's sort of his experience as a stuntman in a way, the fearlessness that he has in that work, he has as a filmmaker. This is a difficult needle to thread because it's an action movie, it's a comedy, it's a mystery, it's a meta film about making movies. It's a lot of plates to spin, and he just wasn't afraid of that at all. And I think we all just felt inspired by that and wanted to sort of mirror that and sort of follow him wherever he wanted to go. It's always the dream to work with a filmmaker who feels like they're the only person who could make that movie, but this was really one of those cases. I really can't imagine anyone but David making this film.
Yeah, I think this is a real beautiful homage to stunt filmmakers, you know? Because there's nothing quite like watching something where your heart is pounding at your chest because you know there's someone that has just risked their life or an incredibly horrible injury. There's something that instantly happens to your being, your empathetic side, where you're just like, you instantly feel emotion. And when they land that thing and they triumph, you're so ecstatic with such joy. It's like, it's so instant. That level of performance is something I've never kind of really witnessed or seen before. To have that in this movie is sort of what makes this movie stand out and be something that is unique and special.
Hot! Love it! Oh my God. Perfect.
High five.
100%. Amazing, 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 amazing.